What's going on YouTube? This is AK and you're watching Vlogmore, and I want to wish everybody a happy November 5th, which is election day, and I'm hoping that every last one of you watching this video today are registered to vote. And for those of you who are watching that just decided that you're not going to vote, let me just say, if I could just get one of you to get off of the couch or out of your computer chair and just head to the poll really quick and just cast your ballot for the candidate that you know is going to protect your Second Amendment rights, your children's rights to remain children and not be involved with adult subjects and categories that will corrupt them and confuse them, the right for your child to not mutilate their bodies, the candidate that's going to help make the border a lot more secure than it's been over the past 4 years. Let's get that person in office, shall we? And make America great again. That's what we need. We need to make this country as good as we can. I think the decline is going to be inevitable. No empire lasts forever, but we can at least postpone that. And although you should be voting on the state level, I know a lot of you don't think the presidential, elections matter. I used to think that myself at one point, but they do matter. So let's get the person that cares about our values the most in office. Just go vote. Go vote real quick. It won't take that long, and even if you have to wait in line for 30 minutes, you'll be glad you did afterwards. If I can get just one of you to do that after watching this video, I'm going to try to get it out as quick as I can today on November 5th. If I can just get one of you to change your mind, then I know I did my job. So with that said, God bless America, and let's get into the video. Now, speaking of elections, of course, there's a lot of rhetoric back and forth about SHTF and civil war, civil unrest. Now, I know a lot of those things to me are very unlikely, even after an unfavorable outcome of an election, but that's not to say that it's not completely impossible. So I decided to make a video about the best weapons to use for SHTF, even if they're just your only primary weapon, and who these weapons are most suited for, whether you live in an urban area or a rural area, and if you're an individual just lone wolfing it out, or you're a part of a militia or an organized group. So I wanted to cover all the different platforms, why they're the best, who they're more suited for. So let's get into it. So number one is a weapon that I know a lot of you are not going to expect, but it's one of the most important on this list. Now, what am I talking about? Well, I have coined this weapon the Third World Excalibur, okay? And that is going to be the machete. Yes, the infamous machete. When I think of a machete, a lot of times I kind of think of the edged weapon version of an AK-47. This machete tends to be the most preferred weapon in war-torn countries where people have a hard time governing themselves. And so machetes come in handy. Now, in the United States, we generally tend to think of machetes as, these weapons that generally dark-skinned people or brown-skinned people who live in third world countries use. But I think they were onto something because, we generally tend to utilize stuff like this. We're really big into knives in the United States, right? We love knives. We revere knives very closely, till we do firearms. But the truth is, I think that third worlders got the machete right, and the reason why is because for one, you got way more distance, and it's been proven all over the world to be right there next to this to the assault rifles that you'll see in these war-torn countries. You've got more distance. Machetes are incredibly durable. I mean, even your Walmart machete that you pay $15 for, those things will last a really long time, especially if you're only using it for an anti-personnel purpose and not to bushwhack anything. But even that, I mean, you know, I've been to third world countries where people use machetes for their livelihood. You know, coconut street vendors who their machetes have been, you know, sharpened down to the point to where they look like giant fillet knives, and they're all rusted up and they're still kicking. So to me, machetes are it. They work, they're great, and they never run out of ammunition. As long as you got arm strength, these things work. So even if you have this as just a primary weapon, you can close the distance really fast with one of these things if you catch somebody off balance. So machete will be the first one I want to carry on this list, or you know, cover on this list. I think we need to start, you know, considering machetes as either a really viable sidearm or, you know, a primary for those of you who don't even have a firearm. Okay, so there's that. Now let's get into number 2. Number 2 on the list is what most Americans have in their arsenal. You know, I'm sure a lot of you know that the majority of gun owners in America own handguns. So that is number 2 on the list, handguns. This here's a Glock 26. Now, I would say that, you know, if all you have is a handgun at this time and you don't have any rifles, if you are a person in an urban area, then a handgun works really well for you. Okay, and I believe that if you're in a rural area, yeah, sure, you can have a handgun as a sidearm, but if you are in an inner city, you're probably going to benefit more than someone in an urban or a rural area only having one of these, because the truth is most people that live in a metropolitan area, downtown area, most of them don't own guns. Most of them are adverse to gun ownership, tend to have more liberal politics. So having a handgun that you're well trained with and you got plenty of magazines and ammo for, you're automatically going to have an advantage. Just like someone with a machete. If you're in an urban area, you know, people are going to be scared. You know, most people are not going to have any type of effective weapon on them. So if you're in an urban area, I believe you have more wiggle room with less effective means. So a machete works better in an urban area. A pistol would work better in an urban area. You can more exercise your will on more people with one of those. So, you know, again, you can carry more ammunition on you than you would most of the long guns. And again, if you're really well trained, you know, you can engage in a firefight even with someone with a rifle and, you know, throw enough lead down there to get out of Dodge and live to fight another day. So handguns absolutely have to be on this list as number 2. All right. So let's get into number 3. Now, the late great James Yeager said that what's number 3 on this list is basically also a pistol, and he did not really consider them for serious use, but that's one of the only things I disagree with him on. And what am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about the PCC. Me personally, I think PCCs are very capable for SHTF, and the reason why is because you got guys in combat zones rocking MP5s and UMP 45s. The only difference between a PCC and one of those is those have fully automatic fire. So if we can trust an AR-15 to do the same job as an M4 used overseas, why not with these? Now, where do they fit in? I think they more fit in an urban area. Again, if you're in a downtown area, most of these citizens down there who have more liberal politics, they're not even going to be armed at all. And the ones who do have handguns or firearms are going to have handguns. And then those people most likely have either never shot the handgun or they've only went to the range once and they put the gun down somewhere. So seeing you walking down the street with one of these, this is a Ruger PC Charger with a 50 round Glock drum, you're going to have an overwhelming advantage being able, again, able to exercise your will over others, being able to defend yourself over whatever thugs and gangsters are in these areas trying to exercise control. So urban area, this would work the best because your more effective, accurate engagement distances are going to be closer. So, you know, you ain't going to be making super far shots with this, but far enough. You know, you can be deadly easily out to 100 yards with the PCC and, you know, make accurate shots. So I would say the PCC most certainly has a place in SHTF. You can carry way more ammo than you know, would, again, with the rifle. And, you know, and also with the advent of modern ammunition, you can have a whole 50 round drum full of critical defense or, you know, federal HST. Imagine that in your 50 round drum or your 33 round big stick. You're really evening the playing field, even with someone with a rifle. So PCCs are definitely a respected you know, platform, and you get to interchange your ammunition with your sidearm. So there's that. Now let's get into number 4. Number 4 is very similar to number 3, and that's because it also shoots these rounds that are mostly found in pistols and carbines, and that is a 22 long gun or long rifle. Okay, this in particular is the Ruger 1022. This to me is the most iconic, reliable 22 long rifle ever made. It takes 10 rounds, but you can also have, what is it, a 25 rounder, I want to say it is, that I also have. It's like a banana clip actually. But this here, I would argue, is probably the best rifle on this list for SHTF. If you're a lone wolf and you just want to screw off into the wilderness and live off of the land for the rest of your life, hunting, trapping, fishing, what have you, the Ruger 1022 I would say is the best for that. And if I had to choose one weapon where I had to isolate myself forever and not interact with anybody if possible, and it was just going to be me, myself, and I would choose the Ruger 1022 because I would pack a easy 2,000-3,000 rounds on me, and I would carry a sidearm too. That's a big caliber for defense against bigger animals, but this thing will still make me a master of nature against most wildlife. So there's a lot of people that utilize these. I do think that this in particular is better for a rural area, just because if you're really good with the wilderness and surviving and in the outdoors, you could take one of these and just disappear, and you know, you can hunt small game, you could take deer, and you know, I know you got people that have a really hard time understanding ballistics, but you could take a black bear out with a 1022 relatively easy, and you could easily take a person out with one of these things. The velocity come out of a barrel like this with you know, 22 long rifle, it's not a joke. So 22 long rifle is an incredibly respectable round. At one point it was responsible for the most deaths when it came to firearm deaths in the country. So 22 long rifle, I respect it, I love it, and especially coming out of a rifle, you can carry as much ammo as you want with these things, and they're very reliable. So I would say that it's my favorite entry on the list. Again, if it just came to me having to rely on myself and myself only, and I plan on never being around any humans ever again, the 1022 would be it. And it's a great option for SHTF. In an urban area, yes, it would work. It would certainly work. But it's more of like a survival outdoor a platform to me. That's why I suggest it for rural. So let's move on to the next one. The next one is also considered an outdoor platform, but you have a lot more constraints with it, and that is the bolt action rifle. Now, I would argue that most gun owners in America who own a rifle probably own some form of a bolt action to hunt with or something like that. I don't know, but I know that a lot of people do have them, and I do know a lot of folks in rural America who do not own AR-15s. This is the weapon that they would use in a civil conflict. And I gotta say, I mean, it's a good option. This here is a Thompson Center Compass TC, and it is or TC Center Compass, chambered in .308 with a threaded barrel. Very simple design. I do believe that if you were using this as an SHTF weapon, you'd probably be better off if it was like 5.56 or maybe 270. I think .308 starts to kind of make it more difficult for you to carry ammunition, but if you're cool with having limited amounts of ammo, then by all means, I would say you cannot go wrong with the bolt action. I mean, when I really think about it, you just can't, because you can't get rounds down range easily, but if you're good at stealth and stalking and you got a ghillie suit and you spend a lot of time hunting, you can do an incredible amount of damage sniping with a bolt action rifle. So I would say if you're in a rural setting, this is the quintessential rural resistance gun for people who live out in the middle of nowhere, sparsely populated areas. We already know distance is a factor. You can engage at farther distances, so there's that. I love it, and I think it's great. For urban use, a little bit too cumbersome, a little bit too big, too large, and you're not going to be able to get a lot of rounds downrange, and I just don't see it being practical. So if you are going to get a bolt action rifle for SHTF, make sure you live in a rural area for that, okay? So there's that. And lastly, we have the king of rifles in general, America's rifle, and that is going to be the AR-15. The AR-15 is going to be the most popular rifle or weapon on this list. That's what, when most of you think SHTF, I'm sure what you're thinking of is AR-15. And that, I also want to just say that this goes for all the semi-automatics, whether it be an AR, AK-47, FAL, or like C308. If you have one of those that shoots a warfare cartridge, 5.56, 7.62 by 39, 7.62 by 51, then you're in that camp, okay? So this is going to work well for both people in a rural area. I would say it works probably best for people in rural areas, but it also works well in an urban environment as well. I think the AR pistol is going to be probably the absolute best weapon on this list in terms of, just versatility. You can carry a lot of 5.56 on you, not as much as, like I said, 22 long rifle, but you can carry a whole lot of, 5.56 or 2.23, and super accurate. The platform is reliable enough, and you're going to have more of an advantage if you come across multiple assailants with an AR-15 than you would any of the other platforms I've covered so far. You'd be able to engage up to 5-6 guys with this, and if you know what you're doing, you can take out all of them. And so AR-15s are great, AK-47s are great, FALs are great. So I would say they work whether you're in an urban area or you're in a rural area. If you're in an urban area and you own an AR-15 or just a semi-automatic rifle in general, you are going to probably be king of the hill for a large portion of the area that you're going to be in. Again, most people in inner cities don't participate with these type of weapons. So there's that. And that's just something to think about. So you all already knew I was going to cover something like this on the list, and so it is there. So now that I've gotten all those out of the way, I'm sure you've noticed that there's one platform that I have not covered, and I chose not to put it on the list, but I'm going to put it as an honorable mention out there just so that my shotgunners out there don't lose their minds. So yes, I've already let the cat out of the bag, and the last weapon, the weapon that really didn't make the list but made the honorable mention, is the shotgun. Now, the reason why this weapon did not make the list is for one reason only. Ammo capacity. Okay? Shotguns have been a staple in American history. It's been one of the most instrumental weapons that we've ever had on U.S. soil for home defense, civil unrest, whatever, what have you. But shotguns shine when it comes to grid up emergencies, like political unrest, like a Kenosha type of situation, Ferguson, whatever, Hurricane Katrina even. When there's a disaster or when there's an emergency where you know that everything's going to get back to normal, shotguns are king. But when it comes to all-out survival, you don't know what's going to happen, if things are ever going to go back to normal. Shotguns, they really do become obsolete at that point. Now, I will say this as a positive first. I think that whenever there's political unrest, we need to start going. People who decide that you want to go out and guard businesses and defend, people's livelihoods and try to keep the order, keep the peace from looters and rioters, you should be using shotguns. It doesn't matter whether you have a Benelli M4, Beretta, 8300, all the way to Remington 870s, Mossberg 500s, even this Benelli M4 clone, this Turkish Panzer M4, whatever you have, you should be using that for domestic disputes, not AR-15s. And the reason why is because every time one of us goes out with an AR looking for an excuse to use it against someone that we don't really agree with, who is burning something down or assaulting someone or doing something like that, you already know that the media is going to flip that into a scenario where now here goes another incident with an AR. All you're doing is making it harder for you as an owner of an AR-15 to keep that AR-15 or to pass it down to your kids. If you respond to one of these domestic issues with the shotgun, you're going to get the same result. It's just that you're not demonizing the AR as much. So I would say shotguns are great for that purpose. There's nothing that you can't do with this, with an AR that you can't do with the shotgun. You can still defend a business with the shotgun. You can still, if you have to open fire on an assailant who's trying to attack you, you can do that. And it's even better because these are more devastating at close range. Now, you don't have as much ammo, but you won't really need as much ammo because, as we've seen, most of these protesters, even when they're armed, they don't really know what they're doing with their firearms. So they're just out there causing mayhem. So a good shotgun with a, bandolier or whatever, full of 12 gauge, birdshot, buckshot, whatever you want, is going to be way more effective to keep the peace in a grid up emergency. Now, having said that, if you have to rely on one weapon and you don't know if the grid's going to be back up and it's pretty much dire straits probably for the next 3 to 4 years, shotguns, they have no place. And the reason why is because look how large the ammunition is. I have 5 shells here, and the truth of the matter is, look how much space that takes up. All right, you want to put 50 rounds of 12 gauge or 10 gauge, 20 gauge in in your backpack with all the other essentials that you need, you're going to be holding yourself down. Even if you manage to, you know, put them on your, you know, your vest or whatever, a bandolier, what have you, it just doesn't really make, it doesn't make sense to carry this. You're going to run out of ammo way too fast. And like my other video I did where talking about why budget AR-15s are enough for SHTF, you know, I said, even with an AR, with 5.56, you're not going to be carrying that much rounds on you. So, and it's way easier to carry 5.56 than it is 12 gauge. So you're going to run out of ammo fast and you're going to get killed. That's what's going to happen. And I don't care if you agree with that or not. If you're a shotgunner, you can justify it all day long, but you're going to run out of ammo before I do if I have an AR. And you're going to be screwed. So that's why this does not make the list. I would not recommend a shotgun for any type of long-term survival in SHTF. I just would not do it. I don't think it's smart. So, having said that, that's pretty much the list, folks. Now, I wanted to do that so that you can have an idea of, you know. Oh yeah, and just let me just clarify. Urban areas, perfect. Rural areas, not so much with the shotgun. I just, I don't think it's a good weapon for rural areas because most likely people are going to have bolt action shotguns, they're going to have AR-15s, and you're just going to be grossly outgunned. So I wouldn't suggest it at all, okay? If you're going to have one in an urban area where you're posted up somewhere in your, you know, sky rise with all your food and stuff, and or wherever you live at in a downtown area, I think a shotgun would work in that regard. But other than that, there's no way I would recommend a shotgun to anyone for SHTF. Okay, so having said that, I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, make sure to leave them in the comment section below. Make sure to like and subscribe, even share, okay? And remember, go out there and vote today, all right? Make your voice heard. Y'all take care. Peace.